Swag and welcome back to another photo journal. And I'll be taking you back 4 years to a failed project that I wanted to do past and failed since something that I won't be able to redo ever. So basically what happened is, from the clip that you see before you, a large portion of land has been removed for a new condominium, which has been a section that I have featured in many of my previous vlogs and photo walks. But before it was constructed, I tried to document the construction and change in my local area. From the title, obviously, I failed to do that. From various reasons of simply university, not being around, not really believing in the project or myself too much, and the time frame of these photos that I've taken is between July of 2018 and older ones are August of 2017. So the construction process, which I don't know exactly, is at least a year for such a large building. But here I just wanted to share the photos that I were able to capture and ask openly of what should I do with these photos. I might just keep it with me, obviously no point, or definitely should not delete them. But it's certainly a lesson and experience for how things will certainly not stay the same forever, and a potential of certain photo projects will not be there forever either. But let's take a look at these are black and white from edited raw files, and I will go through another section of JPEGs that were not edited, and I'm still contemplating whether or not to edit them later or not. These are all still taken with my Fuji X-T1, which is still the same camera that I use today. So first, here are the more latest photos, not older photos, since the building is almost complete, and I just try to document. And before, there was a wall actually in the completed building. The wall is still not yet finished, so we can still see through, and just wanted to try to compose the image, showing the differences between the new modern architecture and still the older Chinese style. The angle here is still not quite correct, let's say. Also, these black and white photos are still edited this year in 2021. So I've came back to re-edit these photos that I have not edited. But these are still back in June, so whatever happened in the past 2 months was a little bit different. Here I like this angle a little bit more, since this shop has been around so much longer. So even though I might not have the proper angle to show the architecture, I think the food stand shop with the construction site on the other side depicts that a little bit better. I do like how I'm able to frame this person and silhouette of his head shown pretty clearly, though I don't really like how this person walking out of the frame is a little bit too far, and that there's a pole here that is sort of cutting him in half. I would prefer to have him somewhere here in the middle, since this area frame is a little empty in my opinion. Having a bike drive through could be another alternative as well. Here is another one where we have the everyday life of the people here, even people walking or people who are on a bus and just the contrast with the other side of this new condominium being erected at the time. This one's another version that I try to just walk in a little bit closer, though I still feel like I like this one a little bit more since it just gives you a window to see the architecture back here and the construction process. Here the car is sadly in the way, and this sort of pillar I think helps frame this building in the background as well. And this one's the third one, now without the car. So I think this one is also an option, but I also have to think about like how this person might be a little bit too close to the edge compared to here. He's sort of framed within the buildings quite nicely, and it's not too tight. Just staying in the same position, working a little bit more of all of the smaller vans coming through, that the bus is sort of driving away now. Here is also another one that I kind of like, with the sort of silhouette of the head being framed, that we sort of see like the architecture style and still under construction. And working the scene once more where there's a motorbike passing through. So I think I like this one a little bit more. And then walking through and try to take a photo from the other side, what we would see coming out of the soy. And there's still sort of other modern buildings already constructed around. So it's definitely a lot of change in the area. Try to reframe the car back here, like the focus is not where I want it to be. And then nice that I got the BTS train running through. Trying to work a little bit more. And then this guy's head also sort of sticking out to the back, and I think it just gives a little bit more interest in the scene. Here now there's like a complete wall, so it's quite interesting to see like some history of how people are still able to walk in and out, and this would be where all of the cement trucks and other construction vehicles would drive through. So just walking back as far as possible and just trying to capture the scene as best as I can. And then we see a construction worker here. So I think this sort of gives a little bit more interest of someone peeking outward or standing up. Here he's sort of bent over, so it's hard to see. Even I didn't notice the first time around for this video recording. And now he's sort of clear up here, like, what's this man doing up here? We still see the crane that it's still under construction. And then back here, I think this is a little bit more valid, that these buildings are still preserved, and it just sort of gives an idea of whatever this building replaced currently would, those buildings that were torn down would be looking similar like these buildings actually. Here I'm on sort of the crosswalk and using a more telephoto, trying to shoot from the other side of the construction. This one would be the 1 year later. No, a year ago. Since the building is sort of, we see the building is constructed quite a lot. Here it's still barely up, like 10 floors, let's say. So trying to just work like the composition Here we have the name Adio, very sort of popular name, a well-known brand that makes a lot of condominiums in Thailand. But here try to frame these other cranes as well. And then I find this sort of sign a little bit distracting, I think. I still feel the same. It's like it's a little bit too bright that it's away. So I try to reframe it here. And then there's like a line of taking us to the crane and seeing all of the straight lines of the construction going on. And here's just a small variation, trying to get a little bit tighter. So here it feels like the center is still prominent, but here the more prominent becomes the crane back here instead. And that's it for this version. These ones are now on the BTS to try to get a better view of the construction site. Now that they have, this is again before the building is completely finished, so they had a different wall to block the view. So with the BTS, you could basically get over it. But this one again, JPEG, overblown, could edit it back down. So we're not here to sort of criticize the editing because there's none, basically. And at the time, this camera, Fujifilm, was still quite new to me. And then here, when I realized that this scene was too bright, I had to come back another day, basically. And well, this is not another day. Clearly, this is a much earlier time before any construction was going on. And we can just sort of see all of the cranes, the construction, and how big this land mass is. And one could just imagine all of these. This entire place was filled with buildings like these that now surrounds this sort of more modern area. And just basically use burst mode. I kind of maybe like this one a little bit more, I'm not too sure. Sadly, with the window of the BTS, there's sort of these small holes, netting to block some of the light come through. So it's not perfect. I'm not sure if it could be edited down or just leave it as it is. But here's just another scene when the building is already completed. And then here, with a little bit more construction now, I brought out a fisheye to see if I could sort of capture a more wider field of view, which I think gives a different perspective. It's different from this because this is basically on the other track. So we're moving, as you can see, we're moving to the left. With this fisheye, we're much closer, so we're on the other track. So here we're moving to the right. Slow burst mode, that's why it's a very big distance covered between two shots, I believe. It's been a couple years, but do let me know which angle you would prefer. I think this one is sort of shows more clearly like the building itself, and then we still have the contrast with the older buildings on this side. Compared to here, it's not really as clear what this place is. Another set of photos from an earlier time. And then here just another section within the BTS, just testing out the camera settings, I think, to prepare when I reach here. I think I do like this scene a little bit more, just simply because there's a cement truck within the roads, and then we sort of see the entrances, how these construction trucks would come in and out of the area. And then it's just sort of continuous burst mode. Again, these are unedited JPEGs, and during a time where I wasn't really experimenting much with film simulation, so it's just all standard ones. Then we pass a little bit too far now. I do feel like this warp might have been electric shutter. Again, I didn't really fully comprehend the camera at the time. Here I'm on the sort of overpass once again with one of the film vintage lenses, and then just had to stop down. It was already pretty bright, and this time is even earlier than all the previous ones, because there's this building already constructed and they're already advertising. And so this photo is even before that. So I felt like I failed to like really document like change, but there's still at least 3 timelines, maybe 4 right now that I was able to capture, but I felt like I should have been able to do more, especially a time before even this section, which we will get into a bit later. But what I tried to photograph here is simply like, again, the contrast between the construction and bare bones land here and the marketplace, sidewalks, and the buildings in the background that sort of indicate what this place used to look. So I could have gone a little bit wider here. I'm not entirely sure if I was already widest in this aspect, since I could have sort of gone, or I have been going much tighter after this point on. And the lens was the 85 to 200. So with the 85, you can just multiply 1.5 for the APS-C crop. So it's still quite tele with this lens. So I tried to go vertical instead to like show more of the buildings. And I do like how this person sort of framed right in here to have some interest. People here are also framed, and then this person is also framed here. So again, I felt like I should have just gone a little bit lower to show a little bit more of this market area down here. Recomposing a little bit more, trying other scenes. This one I went full 200 millimeters and definitely did not have the right shutter speed because it's still a little bit blurry. I was pretty sure at f11 because I figured out that at its widest aperture and vintage lens it's super soft, though I can't be too sure. Again, it's been many years since then. So things got a little bit sharper here. Still quite a little bit hard to sort of see and get the focus right because it feels like I'm back focusing and not focusing on the people properly. And here is again at 200 millimeters, just seeing the difference between like how technically wide this is, and then going 200 millimeters, we see this person here. So this is just still testing out the lens. It doesn't really tell the story that I wanted to try to tell at the time. And here just pushing out to just sort of get it like a proper scene, though again, nothing that benefits the story. I realized it was out of focus, so I tried to take a photo again. And then we sort of jump forward once again in the timeline. Just sort of seeing this light shining onto the building, capturing what I can. And then this building was basically blocking the entire thing, so I think I just stopped there. Here was another location and just sort of found this giant dug up area that they were trying to fix. And then just like how this person was just looking down. So I thought it was an interesting scene to try to photograph. Here was maybe the earliest, or one of the earliest photos that I was able to document. This building in front was not demolished yet, and as you can see, the back over here has all been demolished. So they're slowly sort of taking over and tearing down the buildings one by one. And just burst mode through. And then this part here, if I remember correctly, was a marketplace that I used to go with the family and buy like fresh vegetables and fish here. And obviously it's not there anymore. A couple of the people actually moved to another location close by, and that sort of I don't know, gives me some ideas to possibly try to interview them to sort of tell the story of what it was like before all of this was torn down. So here's the other perspective from the other end. So this building is still up, that we can see here, just from this angle, how it's pretty much 1, 2, 3 to 4 stories tall, and then just imagine like a full 4-story tall stretch of buildings this entire way through that is no longer here. The composition here is just not working, and being inexperienced at the time, I should have sort of worked the scene a little bit more. In this scenario, I wonder if I could have gone a little bit wider or framed these people to be not so tight. This one still feels like one of those snapshots that doesn't really do it. But I went up to the BTS and just went on with my business. But these are all the photos that I was able to, well, document the change in my neighborhood. And I felt like I should have tried to document more. But that's just part of the learning process, that I wouldn't be able to come back and do this kind of change and documentation again. I will simply have to explore my area a little bit more and find other places that might be under change and try to document that and not make the same mistake, and be more dedicated to come out and document a little bit more. That's it. This was my first and failed project that I tried to document back in 2017. And I will come back to you with another sort of photo journal next time. Bye for now.